Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to do a tier ranking of everything I read in June. So once again, welcome back to my channel. I am so glad you decided to click on this video. So I've never done one of these tier ranking videos before. I've seen them all over. I don't know if these are still cool, if these are something that people do, but I wanted to try my hand at it. And I figured before I did something crazy like every book I've read this year, or like all of my 5-star reads of all time, I thought I would start small with the 18 books that I read in the month of June. So this was a pretty good reading month for me as far as quantity. I owe that all to audiobooks because I've just been a little distracted, I think, and there's nothing that's been more calming and just, I don't know, relaxing to me than just sitting with my audiobook and playing a game on my phone. And so I've been doing a whole lot of that. So I definitely can attribute that to how many books I've read. And I listen generally now at 2 times speed. I used to be like a firm 1.5 times, but I guess I'm just getting more comfortable listening to audiobooks. I do it so often now that it doesn't take me as much time to like process the words as they enter my ears, if that makes any sense. So I'm able to really plow through them pretty quickly most of the time. So definitely can say thank you to audiobooks for giving me the ability to get through books quickly and relax. So I am gonna go ahead and start with my tier. So I decided to use Taylor Swift song titles as my categories because of course I did. Why wouldn't I? So my loved it 5-star category is Lover. My 4-star, it was good but maybe not like a new favorite, is Enchanted. If it was just kind of okay, I liked it but I won't ever really remember much, is Mr. Perfectly Fine. My 2-star read section is Should Have Said No, which, you know, is self-explanatory. I should have said no to reading this book. I did not like it at all. And my 1-star section is Bad Blood. I don't think I had any 1-star reads this month, but I don't even know if I had any. Okay, you know what? We're gonna save that for later in the video. So yeah, I figured those were fun categories, and yeah, we'll get started from there. So the first book that's popped up here, I think they're in alphabetical order, so these are in no order other than that, is The Breakaway by Jennifer Weiner. I liked it. I didn't love it. I don't even know if I liked it that much. So I think I'm going to put this in Should Have Said No. She is, well, I should say she was a favorite author of mine, but I feel like these last few books have really kind of gone downhill for me. She has been really loving using infidelity as like a trope or like a plot point, and I just hate that. It really starts to put me up against the protagonist, and it makes me not like them and not feel sympathetic towards them. And so that's kind of was the kicker for me with this one. It's, I guess, a little bit of a spoiler, but you know what's coming. Like, you know what's gonna happen as this book goes on. So this book follows a girl named Abby who has definitely had issues with her mom in the past regarding her body. She is fat, I think, but she's in good shape. So she does a lot of biking. It's like just absolutely her passion. But growing up, her mom sent her to fat camp and has just constantly been critical of her entire life. And so she has a one-night stand with this guy, Sebastian, who she, I guess, has like some really great connection to, even though they spend one night together. And also she's like drunk, but okay. But she leaves in the morning and like doesn't leave a note because she's like, he won't want me once he knows what I look like in the daytime, basically. So we flash forward a couple years and she's in this serious relationship with this guy, Mark, who she went to fat camp with, and they were like each other's first loves, and they kind of reconnected after several years of not really seeing each other or talking. And he ended up having bariatric surgery, so he, you know, can only eat a little bit at a time, and like he's very strict with his like diet and exercise, and he's just pretty like wrapped up in like diet culture and all that. And she's so far out of it. She's 100% at peace with her body. I'll say she's 99% at peace with her body because, you know, she still has insecurities like everyone does. But it doesn't seem to really get in the way of their relationship or anything. But she's kind of like just disenchanted, I guess. She's bored a little bit in their relationship because he is just, he's a doctor. He's just not exciting to her. And so she is asked to host this bike trip from New York City to Buffalo, I think. And who should be on it but the guy she had the one night stand with. And so it kind of goes from there. Her mom also shows up to go to the bike trip as well, and so there's issues with that. And it was okay. It definitely felt more romance than anything else. I feel like Jennifer Weiner has sort of geared more towards romance than like what she used to do, which was like very much like contemporary fiction, women's fiction, like, and I just don't really like that direction. I like my books with a hint of romance for the most part. Like, it can be in there, sure, but I just don't want it to be the main focus most of the time. Romance is just not my favorite genre. So this was all right. If you like romance and you don't mind cheating, then I think that this would be a good book because it does have a lot of depth, more than a lot of like rom-coms, but it just was for me. So the next one is The Celebrants by Stephen Rowley. I'm going to put this in Enchanted. I liked it. I didn't love it. I think this just came at a weird time for me because, first of all, I read this shortly after I read Happy Place by Emily Henry, which has nothing to do with this really, except for they're both about groups of college friends who like reunite later in life at like indicated like times. So that's really all they had in common, but I had kind of just finished reading Happy Place and like hating it. So I think it gave me a bad like something from the beginning. And then I did like it though. I also think, me personally, the place I'm at in my life right now was not at a good place to read this, because while I definitely could appreciate that it's about this group of friends that gets together when any of them are going through a hard time and has like a living funeral where they basically, nobody's dying, but they like have a celebration of life more or less for one of them when they really need like some comfort from their friends. And I love that idea, but I think like just reading too much about like death and that sorrows of it and how, I don't know, it's just a weird time for me with the fact that my dad has like stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And so it's just, things are just hitting me different than I think they normally do. And so that was just not a good timing for me to read it, but I did really like it. And I think that it's definitely a book I'd recommend, but not for me right now. But I'd still give it Enchanted. So the next one on here is Dead 11. I loved this. It is sort of like a campy horror-ish book. It is about this woman who goes missing, and a couple months prior to that, her son had gone missing. And on the floor of his room, it said Clifford Island. And so she is trying to find out what happened. Why is this island just written on the floor of her son's bedroom that she's just like kept immaculate and exactly the same as it was before he died. And so then she disappears. And so her brother is trying to find her. And he goes to the island, and it's just very weird. But the thing about the island is that everyone on the island does the exact same things at the exact same time of day every day. And he doesn't get it because they're all act like they're stuck in 1994. Like, they have no modern technology. They like watch the OJ car chase every night on TV. They, yeah, they dress like it's the early 90s. So it's very strange, and it's kind of told in interviews and narrative and like letters. So it's really unique, and the story itself really reminds me of a Stephen King book. The writing and like the format, not at all, but like I could definitely see this story being formulated in Stephen King's brain. So if you like his books, you definitely should check this one out. I listened to the audiobook and I thought it was brilliant. I loved it, and I could not get through it fast enough. It was just great. It's pretty scary. I mean, it's not like, I don't know. I don't get super scared of books, but like scary in the way that like Stranger Things is scary. So keep that in mind if that's something you're interested in, but I loved it and I definitely recommend it. Next, I have Delicate Condition. This is going to go under Mr. Perfectly Fine because I thought it was perfectly fine. I liked it. I thought the end got a little bit unhinged. So this is about a woman who is an actress, and she had a big career as a younger person, like a teenager, and kind of wasn't working too much in her 20s, but she's now in like her late 30s, and she's sort of making a comeback. In the meantime, she's been trying to have a baby for a while with her husband, and just it's not happening. And so I think they're doing in vitro or IUI, and she gets pregnant, but like dates on her calendar are like randomly being moved, and it's making it hard because if you are doing like any sort of IUI, IVF, any of that, like things are on such a tight timeline where it has to be done at this time. So like, you know, she's supposed to be in for this appointment in the morning, and someone changed it on her calendar to like late afternoon, and like that's not going to work anymore. So it's just really weird. She's also keeps getting like the action figures of her character that she played on the TV show when she was a teenager, just like destroyed near her house. And so it's all kind of just creepy. And then she goes to the doctor later. This is not a spoiler. It's on the back of the book. And they basically tell her that she's not pregnant anymore, but she can still feel the baby like kicking and moving. And it's sort of pitched as a feminist take on Rosemary's Baby, which I have never read. I've seen the movie, so I kind of get it, but it definitely goes a different direction. I liked it well enough, but I will say it did start to drag at the end, and the end of it almost felt a little like Scooby-Doo with like the mask coming off of the villain and just silly almost. So I don't know. It was fine. It was fine. If you're not super well versed in like horror and sort of thriller books, then I think maybe this would be a better option than it was for me, because I read a lot of those. So I'm hard to impress. The next one is The 5-Star Weekend by Ellen Hilderbrand. I will put this in Enchanted because I really did like it, but it's not my favorite of hers. It was sort of run of the mill for her, but I like her books. So it is, I just did a reading vlog where I talked about this a lot, but it's about this woman who is a food blogger, and she's like very successful and famous, and then her husband dies in a car accident. So she invites her like 4 best friends from different phases of her life to come stay with her for a weekend on Nantucket at her house, and just kind of the drama and stuff that goes on within that group. And like, you know, there's like her friend from high school who she's like not really close to anymore, and then a friend of hers from college who is dealing with her own stuff. And so it's just a lot of that. It's definitely the way that Ellen Hilderbrand does a beach read, which for me is like, looks light and fluffy, but there's a lot of emotion and kind of heavier issues involved, but I really liked it. Next, I will say Hard Day Homicide. This is gonna go into Mr. Perfectly Fine. This is the sequel to Against the Current. a cozy mystery that I read back in, I think, February, and I really enjoyed. This was just not as good. I think it all went wrong when they set it like 2 weeks after the events of the first book. And I mean, if you know anything about cozy mysteries, you know that they are always a murder. And so the beginning of this book, once the murder takes place, they're all like, I can't believe no one's coming back to our bakery. And I'm like, 2 murders in like a 2-week period? I also would be wary of your bakery, ma'am. But anyways, it's about a family that owns a Caribbean bakery in New York City, and they host this retirement dinner for this principal at a high school that Lindsay, the main character's mom, used to work at. And nobody likes this lady. This principal is just horrible. Everyone's so excited that she's retiring. And she invites all these people to her party that it's just like, why nobody likes her. And she's also insistent that it is at this bakery. Insistent. That I guess is also a restaurant. I don't know. I'm a little bit confused. I can't really get it in my mind because it's definitely a bakery. But then they also serve like Caribbean dishes. So I don't know. I really don't. I just go with it. I just go with it. So at this dinner, she basically drops dead like she was poisoned. And so it appears that, did one of them do it? Did the mom do it because she hated this woman and all that? So yeah, I mean, it goes from there. It's a cozy, it's gonna have an okay ending, but I really just didn't think it lived up to the first one in the series. I'm definitely still gonna keep reading it because I haven't really read too many cozy mystery series, but I really like this one. And the first one I gave 5 stars to, so I feel like I'm definitely willing to keep on keeping on with this series and see where it goes. Next, I will see Little Monsters. This was amazing. I just finished reading this a couple days ago, and it's definitely like a family drama with just a lot of character building, not super plot heavy, but it's basically about these 2 kids, adult children, who are going to plan their father's 70th birthday party. And their father is a renowned oceanographer who is really interested in whales. They live off the coast of Cape Cod, and he has bipolar disorder, and he seems to think he can only do his work, like he only has these great thoughts and ideas and theories and stuff when he's off his meds. So he has had episodes of him not taking his meds and like really going into a mania. And so it's kind of dealing with all of that. In the meantime, we're following these 2 adult children who are dealing with their own issues. And this other woman who, I don't know if it's noted in this plot synopsis, but it happens so quickly, who we basically learn is potentially also one of their siblings, but like she was not raised with them, and the dad doesn't even know about her. So it kind of is just that. If you like character-driven novels with just like family situations, you will like this. I loved it. The writing was beautiful. The imagery was so good. The Cape Cod setting was just like, I've never been to Cape Cod, but I 100% knew like what I was envisioning in my head was what was really there. So yeah, love this. Definitely recommend it. Next, The Quiet Tenant also goes into the lover category. This is about a woman who has been kidnapped, and she's been living with this man basically in a shed for 5 years. And he has a daughter who's like 13 or so. It follows the perspective of the daughter, the woman in the shed, and this girl that's like in love with him. They're not like together, but she is very interested in him. And so his wife dies. Her parents own the house that they lived in. So her parents are like, okay, we need you guys to move out now that our daughter has passed away. So he has to find a way to like introduce his shed woman that he kidnapped into their like house. Basically, she moves into a room. She's introduced as like a roommate that's like a friend of a friend to the daughter. And it kind of goes from there. It's really well written, and it's so like suspenseful and twisty, and I love the different perspectives. And yeah, it was really, really good. Definitely recommend for thrillers. Like, definitely trigger warnings for sexual assault and like kidnapping if that's a trigger, but really, really good. Next, the Rachel incident, which I will put in Enchanted. I had this on my Kindle from NetGalley for a while, and I like kind of just kept putting it off. So it's about these Irish 20-somethings, early 20s. One of them is in a writing program, and the other works in a bookstore. They both work in a bookstore, actually. And she becomes obsessed with her professor. It's just, I don't even know how to explain this book. I'm not doing a good job, and I don't know how to do a better job. If you like sort of character-focused Sally Rooney type books, I've actually never read a Sally Rooney book, but that's what everyone else is comparing this to. I feel like I should, because I really enjoy books that are compared to her books. It's just about these Irish 20-somethings that work in a bookstore, and the main character, Rachel, is obsessed with her professor, and then he kind of gets wrapped up in their lives. They're roommates, her and the guy James, and then she meets someone and dates him, and it's really more of like a slice of life type book, I guess. I really enjoyed it. Someone Like You, I will put this in Lover. This was just a really sweet rom-com, and as you know, I'm very picky with my romances, be it a rom-com or otherwise. I just am very picky. I thought this was really, really realistic, really fun. I liked the banter between the main characters. This follows two families who have been best friends forever, and all the kids grew up together, and then they kind of like went their separate ways. The girl from the one family is Molly, and the guy is Jude, and they have always had like this, I don't want to say love-hate because it's mostly just like a hate, but like this relationship where they just did not get along. They were always like playing tricks on each other, embarrassing each other at school in front of everybody, and just like making each other's lives hell growing up. And so they don't talk as adults. And so they all get together, though, to plan a joint anniversary party for each set of parents. Jude and Molly are the only two that live in New York City. The rest all live in the suburbs. So they are in charge of finding a venue. It kind of goes from there. But it's really sweet, and I really liked the progression of their relationship and kind of like putting their past in the past, and I guess sort of like dissecting like why did we do that to each other. It was really good, and I love the Jewish rep. I was raised Jewish, but I'm no longer like a practicing Jew, and I feel like that's kind of similar to the characters. So it's obviously any Jewish rep is really nice, but it's really cool to see someone who's sort of Jewish in the way I'm Jewish in a book, because I really don't consider myself Jewish religiously anymore, but definitely culturally. And I feel like that's sort of the main character. It's just like little stuff thrown in here and there that, I don't know, is interesting. Next is The Spectacular by Fiona Davis. This is a Lover. This is about a girl who is just turning like 19, I think, and she's got this boyfriend that she's had for ages, and like, of course, they're on track to get married. It's the 60s. Should mention that. And she ends up going to New York City to audition for the Rockettes, even though nobody supports her, and she actually is specifically told no by her dad. She was raised just by her father, and then she has an older sister who is all very much like a rule follower, and she works for their dad. She goes and like is living her dreams, but then there is like a madman that's planting bombs around New York City, and this is actually a thing that happened, which I had no idea about. So I thought that was pretty cool. Not cool that it happened, but cool to learn about that this was real. And so one of them ends up going off in Radio City Music Hall during a performance, and somehow the main character, I can't remember her name, Marion, she sort of becomes a part of the investigation because she feels really close to this situation. That's all I'll say. But I loved it. I loved the like old Broadway vibes because like I grew up as a dancer and a theater kid. I was a dance major in college, and like so just performing, any books about like performing in New York City and stuff, that was like always my dream my whole life. So I just love reading about it. So it was so good, and the end was really, really satisfying, especially the author's note that talked about like the real events that happened. And so of course I went down a rabbit hole reading all about that, but this was a good one. The Stranger Upstairs, I'm gonna put in Mr. Perfectly Fine. It was fine. I liked it at the beginning, but then the end kind of just became blah, and like I've read this story before. It's about a wannabe influencer who buys this like crappy old house to fix up, and all the neighbors are like, don't do it, it's something, there's weird stuff going on. And honestly, that's all I remember. But I remember how I felt about it, and like at the end I was just like, this book is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. So I also hate books where they like lead you to believe one thing and then like, I don't know how to explain this in like any other way with any sort of nuance, but I hate when I think I'm reading a ghost story and then it's not. So that's all I'm gonna say. I don't think that's a spoiler, but like I just really hate it because sometimes you just want to read a ghost story, and I just hate it when it turns out to be people. Okay, on to the next. Super Bloom. I'm gonna put this in Mr. Perfectly Fine because it was good, but like it wasn't a fave. It was a really quick read, so I got through it fast. It is about a woman who really doesn't have her life together too much. She's a massage therapist, and she used to want to be a writer. A few years prior, her boyfriend passed away, and it's just absolutely destroyed her life. She like just feels really, really bad all the time, even though it's been several years, and she's really frustrated by people telling her to like move on and get over it. And she's like, my boyfriend died, especially because I think they were only together for like 6 months before. But as a person whose relationship went really fast, that I've been married now for 10 and a half years, I definitely could understand that part, because if my husband had died after 6 months of us dating, I would have been inconsolable for a long time, because we just, I mean, he's my person. He's my soulmate. We connected so fast and like knew we were the one for each other. So anyways, that part might be weird to some people, but it's definitely in the book a thing that people are telling her, like, why are you not over this? Like, you dated for 6 months, which I definitely could identify with her on that. So she works at this spa in Vermont somewhere, and she kind of has a bad attitude. Like, she gets in trouble a lot because she kind of like mouths off to clients and just doesn't worry about anything because she's clearly going through it. And she ends up being assigned to massage this author who writes romance books, who has like gone to this spa before and is absolutely a nightmare client. And her boss is like, if she gives me a bad review of your service, you're fired because you've been getting too many complaints. So I don't remember exactly how it works, but basically the author, that is the romance writer, says to her, I can't remember how they get to this point, but she's like, my next book's gonna be about a massage therapist, so I need you to like give me all kinds of notes on it, and like a day in your life every day, give me these diaries, and I'm gonna pay you a ton and whatever. And she could really use the money, so she does it. But in that, she discovers her like love of writing that she kind of had lost a while back, and so stuff happens because, you know, she's like not trying to write a book about the same thing and all of that because she'll get in trouble. And it's cute. It wasn't like anything that I'll remember forever. I'm honestly surprised that I had that much of it still in my head to do this little synopsis. But I liked it. It was cute. If you just want something quick and easy, it was fun. Swipe up for more. So this is nonfiction. I'm gonna put this in Lover. You might have seen my video where I ranted that was inspired by this book, but it is about influencers and follows 3 influencers who are kind of all in different spaces on the internet, and just how they went from just a simple blogger to where they are now, and how, like, you know, quickly the internet can turn on you and all of that, and like what they get paid for certain posts and knowing your value. And I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good read. I will read any fiction that follows anyone in influencer culture. So obviously I saw this at Barnes & Noble and was like, yep. So loved that. And if that's something that interests you, I recommend it. A twisted love story. I'm going to put this in Enchanted. I listened to the audiobook. I got it from Penguin Random House Audio, so thank you so much for the copy. This one doesn't come out, I don't think, until the end of July. It was really good. It was different than Samantha Downing's other books. So I've read all of hers. She's written My Lovely Wife. She started it, and For Your Own Good. And I liked all of them. My Lovely Wife is definitely the best. That was her first one, and it's still my favorite. This is a close second, though. This is more, it's not exactly what I would call a thriller, because it more follows these 2 people in this absolutely horribly unhealthy relationship, so toxic, and they're just always doing terrible things to each other, but then they kind of find that they have a common enemy who is a detective who might know something about something that happened when they had a bad fight a while ago. So you get both sides of the story. You get the detective's perspective, and I was in it from the beginning. I didn't really know much about it, but I just kind of dove on in and really enjoyed it. Under the Rainbow. I read this close to the beginning of the month. So I think I'll put it in Lover. This was really good. It was about a town that was like named the most homophobic town in America, and so they send this like task force to kind of integrate into their community and make them be less homophobic. The main couple has a daughter, and you know, her going to school and trying to make friends and all this, with like her mom being like the crazy gay lady, and it follows a lot of different people. The stories are almost written as like little vignettes that connect, but I really liked it. It was really interesting, really good book. It was quick, and it was good for Pride Month. Even though you should read queer all year, I really liked it as a Pride Month read. All right, almost done. The Whispers. I won't go too much into this because I just did a whole vlog on it. I'm gonna put it in Enchanted. It was good. I liked it a lot. I didn't like it as much as The Push, which was Ashley Audrain's debut novel. But this is about a group of neighbors who live in the same neighborhood, and they're having like a barbecue sort of party, and they end up all hearing one of the moms like really screaming and going off on her like preteen son, and she is just like so embarrassed. She's like, I can't believe you all heard me like screaming and cursing at him, whatever. And then like 6 months later, he falls out of a window and is in a coma. You know, it's all like, is this an accident? Did she push him? Like, because she's known to have a short fuse. And so I really liked it. Definitely similar to how she like, you know, likes to tackle the challenges of motherhood, and how much there's like such a fine line between being like a good mother and being what people see as like a good mother, and then also like being able to put your foot down and like say, no, you're out of control. I'm not a mother, so sometimes it's harder. It was harder for me to connect with this one than I think with The Push. This is similar. If you like Chandler Baker's books, she really does a good job writing about the demands of motherhood and like how much is expected of mom. And I really liked it. Even though I'm not a mom, I think a lot of people could still enjoy this book that have friends that are moms, that have moms that are moms. And the last book is The Wishing Game. I am going to put this in Enchanted also because it just, I again talked about this all the way on my last vlog, but it was just like a little too sweet and a little too cutesy at the end for me. But it's sort of a Willy Wonka-esque situation where this woman who grew up kind of neglected by her family read these books, the Clock Island series, and they were her whole world. And she actually like ended up running away to the island that's like the author lives on, the real Clock Island. And, you know, he was good to her, but then was like, you gotta go home though. And so now she's an adult, and he hasn't put out any books for a long time, but he says, I've one more that I'm going to write, and I'm going to only have one copy, and it's going to go to this person that wins this contest. I'm going to have these people come to my island, and they're going to compete for the one copy. And in the meantime, she's a teacher's age. She's very poor, and she really wants to adopt this boy, Christopher, who has lost his parents and doesn't have any family that will take him in, so he's in foster care, but she doesn't have the money or stability to adopt him or foster to adopt. So that's all she wants. And she ends up becoming part of this competition because he only invites people that have like run away to his island. So there's 4 of them. They're all adults now, but as children, they all ran away to his island. And so she goes and is like, I can win this. And her love for these series has also been passed down to Christopher because, I don't know if I said this, but she tutors him. Basically, she goes to the island, she competes for it. It's very Willy Wonka. I liked it. I thought it was kind of predictable, but I don't know that everyone would think it was predictable. But it doesn't matter. It was an entertaining read, and I enjoyed reading it, and I think that other people will also enjoy reading it. So as you can see, it was a pretty good reading month. I had a lot of 5-star and 4-star reads, and nothing that I absolutely hated that I have bad blood with now. So overall, yeah, good month, and I had fun doing this tier ranking. So let me know in the comments if you enjoyed watching it, because I enjoyed making it. And if you liked it and I liked it, let's do it again sometime. Thank you so much for watching. I am so glad that you clicked this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. And if you aren't subscribed, I would love it if you would. I am almost at 450 subscribers, and my goal for the year was 500. So I feel pretty confident that we can make it. So if you have any friends you think might like a video or 2 of mine and they want to subscribe, send them my way. I am so grateful for all of you for watching my videos and for all the support, and I'm just happy to be here. So I will see you in the next one.